Hello, this is David Wilkerson, and welcome to my first edition of Old School Boxing Talk. Now, this being the first one, we're going to pretty much keep it basic, keep it simple. I'm explaining a lot of myself to you people. I grew up in the 70s, late 60s. I was born in the late 60s, grew up in the 70s, 80s, where we could turn on TV every Saturday. ABC, NBC, CBS had fights on. And I grew up watching like shows like Tomorrow's Champions on NBC with Alex Ramos. Lou Duva had the big stable. Alex Ramos, Bobby Ches, Rocky Lockridge was part of that series. You know, great series of young fighters. Then, of course, CBS had CBS. They had the fights on, and I watched a lot of the great fighters. Eusebio Pedroza, who's the WBA featherweight champion, the great Salvador Sanchez, the WBC welterweight champion. Back then, when I started in this watching this sport, there was only two champions, two. Now there's four, and it was hard to get a unification fight back then. You know, because like I said, I would have loved to see Salvador Sanchez and Eusebio Pedroza eventually face each other. They never did. Of course, we lost Salvador Sanchez. Maybe down the road they would have. I don't know. But we lost Salvador Sanchez to a car accident. Eusebio Pedroza eventually went on to lose his title after 8 or 9 defenses. He lost his title to Barry McGuigan. But that's being said, these are the fighters I watch. Wilfredo Gomez, Alexis Arguello. You know, I got to watch Larry Holmes, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns. And I remember watching Hearns Cuevas. I had never seen somebody hit so hard that, I mean, if you have a chance to find a Hearns Cuevas fight, you want to see a shot, watch that fight. Tommy Hearns versus Rapino Cuevas. That right hand was, oh my gosh. Boxing is my passion. It's just the one sport. I mean, I love the NFL, you know, and but there's nothing that I love above boxing. I'm very passionate. To me, boxing lost a lot of its luster, a lot of its swagger, when for some odd reason, which I personally believe it was the networks, which I include HBO, decided to take away rounds 13, 14, and 15 of title fights. And now they're going to try to say that because Dooku Kim came here and fought Ray Mancini for the WBA welterweight title and Dooku Kim died, they're saying, oh, it was health reasons. No, it wasn't health reasons. The bottom line is the reason they took rounds 13, 14, and 15 was the networks decided that, hey, if we cut down championship fights from 15 to 12, we can have two in less time that would take 15 rounds. So that was a decision that Jose Sullivan of the corrupt WBC went along with, and for some odd reason, everybody but the last holdout of that was the IBF. The IBF was the last organization when they were the youngest organization in in here. The IBF had just come into existence shortly after this, and the IBF was the last one to say no to the 12-round limit. The IBF was the last one that still had 15-round championship fights. I wish the IBF has held its ground, but it didn't. It eventually caved in to the pressures of the WBA and the WBC. Well, they are the big brothers on the block. So obviously, once the networks got the WBA and the WBC to go along this 12-round bullshit we see today, we got what we got. Now, like I said, I'm old school boxing. You know, I remember when championship fights were 15 rounds. This 12-round stuff, I mean, I've gotten used to it. Am I happy with it? No. Because I missed 13, 14, and 15. Those were the championship rounds. There used to be a time you had where the titles in boxing actually meant something. You were a young prospect working your way up. You got to the top. When you got to the top 10, you fought for the USBA or the NABF. They were the regional titles, and they were 12-round fights. You won those two belts, defended them a couple times. Then you went on and fight for the world title, which are 15 rounds. Now the NABF and the USBA have reduced their titles. Of course, they had to 10 rounds, which was stupid because I always liked the ideal of those belts were 12, which meant you went from when you were a prospect, you were moving up the ranks from from 6 to 8 to 10 round fights. Then when you got to a championship level, you fought a 12 round fight. Now, when you got to a world championship level, you fought a 15 round championship fight. It prepared you because if you've never gone, you're just getting into 10 round fights as you're getting into contention. Now you win a regional title, and now you got to go 12. So that prepared you because now when you fight for the world title, you got to go 15. But the thing about it was you've gone 12. So you just have to go 13, 14, 15. And all the greatness, all the great fights that, Leonard Hearns won would be different if it was only 12 rounds. So many great fights were 15 rounds. And I would like to, I wish to God we go back to that because that, I think, is when boxing lost its swagger, when for the love of the networks who then abandoned the sport for the longest time, stripped us of 13, 14, and 15. That's one of my things that I don't like. Number two that I don't like is I don't like these damn all these damn catch weights, all these, look, this catch weight, now everybody's talking about Canelo fighting at 155 and blah, blah, blah. Here's the deal with catch weight. You want to fight at catch weight, you got these things called junior divisions. You don't want to fight at full middleweight, that's why you got junior middleweight. In my opinion, Canelo, you're the lineal middleweight champion. The weight limit is up to 160. If you want to come in at 155, that's great. Don't mean I'm coming in at 155. I got to 160. I got the extra 5 pounds. And trust and believe, I'm going to use every bit of it to get to 160. Because a lot of guys that are middleweights, what people don't understand is a lot of guys that are middleweights walk around at 180, 185. And they lose that weight to get down to 160. Because maybe, you walk around at 180, 185, but you're not, and you say, well, hell, you could easily be a light heavyweight. No, you can't, because maybe size-wise, there's a difference between shape and walk-around weight and shape and fighting shape. So if you walk around at 185, that's just your walk-around weight. You're not in shape for much. You might be in some shape, but not in fighting shape. When you break your body down, you get down in fighting shape, well, what do you come in at? You lose 20 pounds during training camp. You lose 20, 25 pounds during training camp. So you may beat a natural middleweight with fighting weight. That's your best fighting weight, not your walk-around weight. And that's what you have to remember a lot of times in boxing is the difference between your walk-around weight and your fighting weight. And, your guys that say, well, I walk around at 185, don't mean I'm going to fight at light heavyweight because to get my ass in shape, by the time I get my ass in shape and everything and break down, I'm 100, maybe 58, 59 pounds. I'm a middleweight. So that makes sense. But I'm what would be considered a big middleweight. I'm not like one of these guys that weigh in 156 pounds that come in at 156. I'm a guy that's going to come in at 158, 159 and a half. So I'm not like one of these guys, that are, going to come up. I believe in something I saw on another site, the original 8, which I believe that every fighter should have achieved, win a title in the original 8 weight classes, which are flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. Every fighter should want to win a championship in one of the original 8 weight classes. These junior divisions, again, the junior division were the business of boxing. Now, my theory also, another one of my theories that I have is my theory on greatness. It may not be for everybody, but it's my theory. And, like this whole thing is my opinion. This is what I think. You don't have to agree with it, but this is but, it is what it is. My theory on greatness, and I use this across the board on all the sports I follow. If I can take a fighter from any era and put him in another era, how would he respond? It's like when we have this argument all the time, me and my football friends, about who the greatest quarterback is. In my opinion, the greatest quarterback ever played in the NFL is Johnny Unitas. And I say this because I look at the era Johnny Unitas played in. I say, okay, what do we Johnny Unitas? Could Johnny Unitas play in the 60s? Yeah, at his best. Could Johnny Unitas play in the 60s? Yes, he could. Could he play in the 70s? Yes, he could. 80s, yeah. 90s, absolutely. Today's game, absolutely. Johnny Unitas would be, oh my God, with today's rules, Johnny Unitas would kill today's game. And that's what I'm saying. That's my measure of greatness. If I can take you from your era and bring you to the future, or take a player from the future and take them to the past, could they play there? A lot of today's quarterbacks could not play back in the 30s, 40s, 50s when Unitas played. I don't know of any quarterbacks, because today they pamper the fighters. They pamper quarterbacks today. The same theory I have for fighters. Could I take a fighter, any fighter, and take him and put him in any era of boxing, and would he be successful? And that is how I gauge greatness. To me, is it not only in your era, but could you go and fight in today's era? Could you fight in eras of the past? Which is my definition of greatness. Now, when I do my top 10 all-time greats, that's what I gauge it on. Whenever I do a top 10, whenever I do a greatness, I gauge it on those criteria. So you know coming in, this is my criteria. Could I take fighter A and put him in any other era? Could I take any fighter from today? Could I put him in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Could I take him back then, and would he be successful against the best of the best back then? In his weight class, number one. But any other dream fights that may come about. Could this guy have been successful in any weight, in any era? And that's how I gauge my greatness scale. Like, to me, Muhammad Ali, greatest of all time. And I don't just say that because I'm not an Ali mark, but again, could I take Ali at his best? And now, when I say Ali at his best, it's Ali before he went to prison for 3 years. Could I take that Ali that went from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali after he beat Liston? Can I take that Ali and put him in any era of boxing? And could he beat the best guys in that era? Yes. Ali at his best, I could put Ali in any era, and Ali would dominate the heavyweight division. I believe that. That is how I judge greatness. And I was on Facebook today, and I had a few. I joined a group on Facebook. I don't know the name of it, but I will get a name for my next one. And we had good, intelligent boxing talk. And it was great because there was nobody putting anybody down. There was nobody, calling people names. And I don't want that. I want intelligent boxing conversation. And I know a lot about boxing, but I don't know everything. And I'm always willing to learn more about boxing. I mean, I was under the impression that one of the things I learned that I was under the impression of was, for the longest time, I believed that Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns ducked Aaron Pryor. I was recently found out that that wasn't the case, that Sugar Ray Leonard on 2 occasions was going to fight Aaron Pryor, and Aaron Pryor, according, from what I was told, priced himself out of the fight. Aaron Pryor also, from what I discovered, was priced himself out of a fight with Roberto Duran. So that kind of debunked one of my theories, because it came down to the theory of cherry picking, where everybody was cropping about Floyd Mayweather cherry picking, and I remember that other fighters have picked and choose who they wanted to fight. People seem to forget that when we talk about cherry picking and picking your opponents, whatever, that's been going on in boxing forever. There was once a time where there was a bunch of black fighters and Latino fighters couldn't get a shot at the champion because they were black and Latino. You couldn't get a title shot. And if you were black and you were good, you weren't getting a title shot. I mean, there was a segment called the Black Murderers Row of good African American fighters who were probably better than the champions, and even the great Sugar Ray Robinson would not fight these guys. It's going on throughout history. There were black contenders that even Joe Louis would not fight. So cherry picking has been going on in boxing forever. People, managers say, hey, that guy's a little tougher than we want. You know, right now, we're going to leave him alone. And also, you got to remember that a lot of times when a fight doesn't come off, it's high risk versus rewards. Risk versus reward. Boxing, first and foremost, is a business. You only have so many of these things in your body. So a lot of times a fight doesn't come off. It's not because the fighters are scared, but because they make a business decision that this guy is a high-risk guy, but he's a high risk but low reward. You know, it's a tough fight, but am I going to get the kind of money? Does this guy generate the kind of money I need to take this fight? Which, was, a lot of times that's why fights don't have. People say, why did Mayweather fight Margarito? High risk, low reward. Floyd Mayweather looked at the risk, said, okay, I see the risk, but what is the reward? The reward's not there. People complain and say, well, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao took so long to get there. Yes, but it wasn't just on Floyd, it was on Floyd and Manny. Bob Arum was behind. Bob Arum was looking at high risk, low reward. When that fight was originally announced 5 years ago, they wanted to make Mayweather Pacquiao, they would have got 40, 50 million to split. They waited, took 6 years. What they walk out, Floyd walked out with 100 million. Manny Pacquiao walked out with whatever Bob Arum gave him. But but the point is, it took 6 years to make. Bob Arum didn't want that fight right away, and this is what people need to understand. Bob Arum did not want that fight right away because if 5 years ago would have been the same thing that happened a couple years ago with Mayweather Pacquiao. Mayweather was going to outbox Pacquiao. He wasn't going to, it was the same fight 5 years ago. Pacquiao would have came in aggressively, and I think 5 years ago, honestly, I think Floyd's hands were in a little better shape. He might have knocked Manny out because Manny jumps in, and I think Floyd would have timed in the same way Marquez did, and he'd have knocked him out. And the difference, and the reason I said it is because the Manny Pacquiao that fought Floyd Mayweather on May 2nd was a different Manny Pacquiao. The Manny Pacquiao that fought Floyd, the Manny Pacquiao 5 years ago when they wanted to make the fight, that Manny Pacquiao was fearless. He forgotten about getting knocked out. He was a wrecking machine. This Manny Pacquiao had just come off of, he got knocked out by Juan Manuel Marquez. He was a little more cautious. If you watch Pacquiao after the Marquez fight, he fought a little bit more cautious because he was afraid of exposing himself. He was gun shy. When a fighter gets knocked out, that does something to a fighter's psyche. Some fighters can come back from it. Some fighters can't. Manny Pacquiao, unfortunately, those of you that are screaming, even his trainers, know that we're never going to see the Manny Pacquiao again, in my opinion, for two reasons. One, he's gun shy. He doesn't really want to exchange. He'll throw his, but he's too worried about what's coming back at him. So that's Manny's gun shy. Two, and the reason I'm saying about the knockouts is, I'm sorry, I believe there was HGH involved. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, if I'm wrong and I'm found wrong, hey, I'll be the first to apologize. But that aside, my main thing I want to talk about here is old school boxing. The best facing the best. And trying to learn myself and trying to educate those that know less than me. And those that know more than me, hey, I want to learn. So I welcome comments. And also give me topics that you guys want me to talk about. I would love to have that. So on that note, we're going to log off on this one and hope to see who will follow this and what replies I can get in. We'll try to do this every Monday or Tuesday. Till then, enjoy the fights.